Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
With Mike McGuire.
Stand up, son. Let me take a good look at you.
This guy's a serious professional.
You know what I want to talk about?
Yeah.
Well, the professional wrestling. Do I have your attention now?
Done shilling. I'm done shilling, okay?
Let's get this show on the road.
I love professional wrestling.
Hello, welcome to the show. Posting a little later on the Sunday. If you're getting it on the radio, you're getting it right on time. I'm Mike McGuire. Let me tell you a little story here. But first, I want to thank you for downloading the pod and checking out the show. Or if you're listening on the radio, check out some of our extra podcasts as well. CelebrateWrestling.com is where you can find those. And, of course, every episode of this show, we've got a show called Legends and Champions that comes from the UK. And out of Calgary, it's the Alternate Commentary Table. Mitch and Dimitri do a show out there every week as well. And it's a ton of fun. They just look back at TV like your buddies do. Imagine just hanging out with your buddies, talking about wrestling, and just having a few laughs, along with some bizarre flashbacks to certain Canadian actors, we will say. Dimitri, my office. Anyway, every week we talk about the ins and outs of pro wrestling here on McGuire on Wrestling. Every show, always free, always about wrestling. If you'd like to support the show, a couple easy ways to do that. We do have a PayPal at CelebrateWrestling.com, or merch store is open also at CelebrateWrestling.com. New shirts being released as soon as Scott Ainsworth in Australia lets me know that he got his shirts in hand. We're just waiting for that final shipping to get out there, and I don't believe in releasing new product before everybody else has their product in their hands. Action figure manufacturers. I made that joke last week. If you don't get it, look it up. It's quite a bizarre story. Anyways, this week, of course, lots to talk about. Dave Meltzer is here, and yeah, WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia in 2027. A lot of people have a lot of feelings about this. Some good, some bad, some justified, some not. We're going to talk a little bit about this and whether or not this is just the way business is now moving forward if you're a fan of WWE, or if you watch WWE, or if you care about what happens in WWE. Also pose the question, what if somebody else were to do that? What if somebody else got an offer to go to Saudi to do shows? Would they take it? Dave and I will talk about that and a lot more. We've heard a story about Andrade being released, perhaps. He's on the alumni page now of WWE.com. Dave has some details on that story for us. And of course, we catch up on everything else in the world of wrestling because it's just a busy, busy time. Next week, going to be one of the busier weekends. We have 2 back-to-back major pay-per-views or PLEs. AEW bringing us all out of Toronto. And of course, WWE has WrestlePalooza out of Indianapolis. Huge matches on that card. Huge matches on AEW's card. Of course, it's a big show in Toronto as well. So that relates to a lot of us Canadians that are a part of the show here. But we're going to do our best to cover everything and invite you to be a part of the conversation as well. If you want to talk about wrestling with cool fans that aren't jerks to each other, best place to go is the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page. That is also free to join. Just look us up, Celebrate Wrestling McGuire on Wrestling on the Book of Face. We're also on the Instagram and Threads technically, but I think they just basically make you do that now when you join Instagram. I don't know. We're there. Anyway, we're going to get down to all the stories coming out of this week in wrestling. I did want to tell you a little story about why we're posting late today, though. So, as you may or may not know, I do a regular radio show every single day on a radio station in Lethbridge, Alberta, Southern Alberta, just outside of Calgary. And I love doing the show. I love what I do. I've also built my home studio setup into my office at the radio station. So if you've ever seen the videos on our Celebrate Wrestling page, that's part of my work life here. Another part of my work life is working with musical acts and things like that. So I'm building a studio in our radio station here, and it's really sweet. But part of it is putting in some new seating. And by new seating, I mean 25 steel chairs that are in kind of rough shape. I picked up from Lethbridge's Pure Power Wrestling a few months back, and they said, you know what, just keep them. Do what you want with them. So I said, sweet, I got 25 steel chairs. But they were beat up, guys. They were like really, really beat up. Like I'm talking not the nice ones you see on TV. That's what I wanted them to look like. I'm talking about the ones that, you see in like the bottom of somebody's garage. I don't even know how you call it, like, the floor of the garage or the bottom. You know how some garages have that like underlayer? That's where these chairs would have been. Like they're beat up. Okay. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been painting these chairs, getting them all nice and everything. Part of that means taking them outside the radio station. We are on the 4th floor, and obviously outside is on the ground. So I leave the radio station with a wagon full of chairs. Yes, a wagon full. And I take them downstairs. I got my trim clad ready to go. I'm going to paint some chairs. I get all the way down there, get all the way outside, and I realize I have locked myself out of the building, out of the radio station, and also don't have my cell phone with me. Now, I don't know about you. This is 2025. I can't remember cell phone numbers to save my life. I can't remember friends. I can't remember work colleagues. I can't even remember the lady friends. Yes, there's a lady friend. So what do? Well, there's a store next door. I'll go ahead and say it's a liquor store. I'm covered in paint. Okay, my hair is a mess. I look a little rough. I look like one of our city's more, trying to get by sort of people right now. I come into the liquor store. I'm like, hey man, can you do me a favor? Is there somewhere here I can log into Facebook so I can get a hold of my coworker? I didn't sound like this. I was actually quite presentable, but anyway, we try and log in, multi-factor authentication, right? Protecting our accounts, keeping us safe. That's good. Unless you're trying to get a hold of people because you're locked out of everything and have no other access to technology. Closest walk for me would have been like 10K, which I can do, but I didn't really want to. Plus, I've got all these painted steel chairs downstairs, and I'm like, I don't want somebody to steal my chairs. So call a cab, get to the lady friend's place. There's another side story of hilarity there, but the bottom line is I started today's show producing it 8 hours before the time I'm talking to you now. So Dave Meltzer and I have already actually had our conversation. We've also had a conversation with the Brian Kendrick, who's a part of this week's show, but piecing it all together late. So I can tell you, you're getting the freshest update when we look at the 5 biggest stories of the week, known as the 5 Count. Let's go.
You want to hear the breaking news? For the first time ever, WrestleMania will be held outside of the United States and Canada. In 2027, we are proud to announce that WrestleMania 43 will take place in Saudi Arabia as part of Riyadh season.
That was the official announcement made earlier this week from Paul Triple H Levesque that WWE is going to, in fact, take WrestleMania proper to Saudi Arabia in 2027. Now, there's a lot of reaction from around the world, especially in places like London, England, who have been trying to get a WrestleMania there for years. Even Vancouver has been trying for it for a long time in British Columbia, but nope. They're heading to Saudi Arabia, and the answer, as you expected, is a dump truck full of money. Of course, $55 million a show is the average price tag that WWE gets for every presentation in Saudi Arabia, although with the upgrade to the Royal Rumble next year and WrestleMania the year after, there is some talk that maybe this will lessen the amount of Saudi shows, but the pedigree of them definitely moving upwards. We're going to take more of your feedback on that this week throughout our Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page and have a further discussion on how you feel about it in the weeks to come. With the announcement that WWE is taking WrestleMania to Riyadh, there is some speculation that the Saudi government is hoping to land some big returns for superstars. One superstar that says there's no way it's going to happen again, though, is Shawn Michaels. Now, you might remember he had that big return match tagging with Triple H against The Undertaker and Kane in what can only best be described as during an appearance on Nightcap, he told the host that he had double knee replacement scheduled, but they still had to ask the question, is there a chance HBK might wind up back in the ring for one more match?
Not a chance. Not a chance. And even if they were, I'm so blessed and so fortunate to have done what I've done.
Dirty dog!
Can he kick out of this again? Can he kick out of this
to
again?
the top of the mountain!
Boom!
Oh my God! This is history!
This is history!
Friday night, Dominic Mysterio became the new AAA Mega Champion. He is the first pro wrestler to hold a WWE and AAA title at the same time. He beat El Hijo del Vikingo by way of pinfall. There's tons of schmoz and interference and whatnot, and even an interference from El Grande Americano, who slipped the gimmicked mask piece to Dominic for the big headbutt and the pin. Dominic Mysterio, now your new AAA Mega Champion, had the belt presented to him by his dad, Rey Mysterio. I am loving this. Let me know if you watch the show, if you watch the match, and how you feel about Dirty Dom holding double titles. As I mentioned in the intro, Andrade has seemingly been released by WWE. There are multiple reports surfacing now about things like wellness violations and behavioral issues. We don't know for sure. I'm going to ask Dave Meltzer about this, but it was back at 2024's Royal Rumble that Andrade surprised everyone, making his return to the company after exiting AEW. Now, of course, there was some stories about some things going on while he was there as well, so the future may be uncertain for El Idolo, but we will keep you posted. And of course, this upcoming weekend, it's the weekend of too many shows. AEW's All Out Toronto kicks off at 3 p.m. Eastern. At 7 p.m. Eastern, it's going to be WWE's WrestlePalooza. Dave and I are going to talk about this and how the timing may work out, but both cards absolutely stacked. Your main event looks like it's going to be CM Punk and AJ Lee taking on Seth freaking Rollins and Becky Lynch in a Battle of the Spouses contest. Also, John Cena faces Brock Lesnar, and Cody Rhodes will challenge Drew McIntyre. On top of that, a new Women's World Champion will be crowned, and many more. On the AEW side, of course, that card is stacked with matches like MJF taking on Mark Briscoe. You've got Hangman Adam Page defending his championship, this time against a guy who's becoming a lot of people's favorite AEW star, Kyle Fletcher. Many more matches, many more multi-person matches as well, and we will have feedback threads happening on our Facebook page for both those shows on Saturday. Coming up, Ronda Rousey has been in the news as of late, talking about her experience as a pro wrestler in WWE. Well, what about one of the people that trained her? Had the chance to sit down with Brian Kendrick, who is no stranger to a lot of wrestling fans throughout the years, for some good reasons, for some not so good reasons. We talk about some of that. Plus, up next, Dave Meltzer and I go through all the news out of the week, and we start off with WrestleMania in Saudi. Thanks so much for being here.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
CKXUFM 88.3 in Lethbridge is Southern Alberta's true alternative radio station.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
Proudly carrying McGuire on Wrestling every week.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something different to listen to,
This is gonna be a slobber knocker!
check out our NCRA award-winning lineup of programs or stream us anytime at ckxu.com.
It's time for the Wrestling Observer Insider with Dave Meltzer, McGuire on Wrestling.
Dave, I was gifted something yesterday. One of my coworkers here at the radio station, his wife is actually from Russia originally, and they're from a part of Russia that's right by Japan. So they go down to Japan all the time. I did them a favor, drove her from the airport here one day. It's like a 2.5 hour drive, whatever. And they were so grateful. They were like, "What could we possibly do for you?" I said, "Nothing. Don't worry about it." And then I thought, if you ever go to Japan again, if you ever see anything with like New Japan Pro Wrestling or any like a flyer, a poster, I don't care what it is, grab me one, right? So first they grabbed me a flyer for an upcoming show at a Dragon Gate show, which is kind of neat. That's kind of a nice little souvenir, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is the Mecca right here. G1 Climax program.
Uh-huh. Wow, that's cool.
I can't read what years from.
97, it looks like.
Well, no, it's volume 97. It turns out it was from 94, I think, 93 or 94. Somebody on my social media could read the Japanese, so they said, yeah, it was 93, 94. But I mean, going down these names that were in the G1 back then. So you got Fujinami, you got Masahiro Chono, Keiji Muto, for God's sake. Like, I mean, it's just crazy. Some of the names that are in this, and that was, the G1 back then. So I'm looking forward to actually leafing through this thing. But yeah, when you're down there, did you ever pick up stuff like this when you were there?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I was younger, all the time, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have all these books from Japan and magazines, and like I would go to the old magazine stores, which they have, and they'd have stuff from years ago. And there's a place called Totocon's there that has a pretty much like I don't want to say every American wrestling magazine dating back to the 50s, but probably like a large percentage of them, because I just went in there and was just reading through all the 60s stuff, because from 70s on, I've probably seen it all, but
right.
And they had it, they had programs and magazines from the 50s. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, so I mean that was kind of cool for me. Just it's funny we talk about it here, there, and you watch it all the time, but it just seems a little more real when you got something that's actually from there in your hands. So that's kind of neat. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you, knowing the aficionado that you are for Japanese wrestling, especially. But of course, if you're a fan of quote North American wrestling, as we've said for years on the show, WrestleMania Riyadh.
Yeah.
Did you ever think? And not just in the last couple of years, or I guess the last 8 years now, really, with the deal they've had with Saudi Arabia. Did you think that London would be shafted from a WrestleMania before Riyadh was?
Well, no. I mean, I wouldn't even consider Saudi Arabia for it. But once I heard they were paying $55 million for a show, I thought it was kind of inevitable. They're putting money into these things, and it's more money than anyone else will put into these things, and that's the reality. I don't want to say there's not a promoter alive, but there's not a promoter from the past who, if they were offered whatever the equivalent was in their era of what $125 million buys today, would not have jumped at this. I mean, so I don't fault them for it. It's just, I know a lot of people are really, really upset. It's just the reality. I mean, they've been going there for 8 years. I mean, the time to be upset was when they went after the Khashoggi murder.
Right.
And he tells you right there. And that was under Vince McMahon, too. Just remember that. That was a Vince McMahon decision. Mm-hmm. So I've seen a lot of what I would call a revisionist idealism on many topics when it comes to pro wrestling of late. I've read, between the idea that Vince would never do this when, and of course he would, that Vince would never raise ticket prices when, of course he would. WCW was doomed because of the Time Warner merger, which they were doomed because they lost $62 million in a calendar year. And pretty much any wrestling company in history would have been doomed having a year like that. So it's kind of like trying to rewrite history to make Vince McMahon out to be something that he wasn't.
Well, I think the reason why people are doing that is because it didn't happen during Vince's time. But if you look at it, I mean, they made.
But he went there at a time when nobody would go there.
That's what I'm saying, is that he made some decisions that at the day we were all question marking even harder than we are today.
Yeah, but the point is everybody. I mean, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but everyone's going to Saudi Arabia. What they did using sports worked. I mean, and everyone saw it coming and all this, and it normalized the country. It's like before, I mean, look, there've been big boxing matches there. And at first people were like, oh God, it's terrible you're doing this. Now everyone does it. I mean, when WWE signed the original deal, it was considered very negative, but they went. And then the Khashoggi thing made it the worst. And then they just kept going, and now everyone goes. So it's just so much money, and they're a publicly traded company, and then that's a decision that they're going to make. And I've known that this was, on the books for, ever since they, when they got the Royal Rumble, it's like, of course they're going to get WrestleMania.
Well, we talked about this almost having, the idea of 2 WrestleManias, which they're kind of almost doing now with this WrestlePalooza thing, but now it's going to be actual WrestleMania in 2027 in Saudi Arabia. How do you think the travel is going to be on this one? Is this going to be the least internationally visited WrestleMania, you think, or where's it going to stand from that standpoint?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I'm sure there'll still be some tourists going, but it won't be anything like when they have them in the United States. And it won't be anything like if they did it in the UK, which I presume that there will be one in the UK at some point. Not sure what year. It could have been 2027, but WWE wanted 2028 for the Riyadh show. And what happened was Saudi Arabia as a country dates its birth to 1727. And they wanted this for the 300th anniversary. No matter what sport we're talking about now, I mean, Turki Al-Sheikh is the final boss. You know what I mean? He really is, because he's putting up the money, whether it's MMA, although he's not as strong in MMA, but it's absolutely 100% in boxing. He's the most powerful force. And he gets whatever he wants in wrestling because, TKO's in the boxing business and he's funding them. So he's going to get whatever he wants from any TKO company.
If the opportunity was presented, do you think Tony Khan would take an invitation?
For this money?
For anything, for AEW to come down to Saudi Arabia?
That's a really hard one. I think for this money,
I mean, it would be significant money, more money than what he'd be making at any show in North America. Either way, that's how they operate.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say 100%, but I mean, he'd certainly entertain it. But I don't know 100%, because the thing is that it's a private company, and I don't want to say yeah probably, because I mean it may not be yeah probably, but I would tend to think, if I was going to guess, I would think Yeah, probably, but it'd have to be a significant amount. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I haven't attended a media call in a little while here, but I think I might actually hop on the next one that comes up and ask that question because
you can ask that question.
I'm curious. I'm curious.
It's true. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people talking about the idea of like, oh, he should go, you know, with the idea of he should run in New Orleans because the idea of New Orleans got screwed out of WrestleMania and run the same day and all the vendors will come in and this and that and for all those people. But, you know, I mean, one thing that people realize is, you know, most of the people who go to WrestleMania go because it's WrestleMania. They're not going to go because it's AEW. Yeah. And so, you know, the idea that, oh, you know, we'll show WWE, it's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know if it's not. But I don't think that all these people who think that 100,000 people are going to go to New Orleans and they're going to sell out Mercedes-Benz Dome. I don't know if that's true. I think it's not. And then the idea that all these companies from all over the world would run shows that week. You know, I think a lot of those companies are going to end up running wherever SummerSlam is that year, and they'll just do it the same way. And SummerSlam is big. It's going to be a 2-day show, too.
We're talking to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer and WrestlingObserver.com. The news that WrestleMania in 2027 is headed to Saudi Arabia. Of course, shook some fans out there. There's a lot of, as I was watching the live stream on social media, a lot of immediate negative feedback here. Overall, what do you think the viewership is going to be like? Do you think people are going to care when it comes to that show? Like, it's still WrestleMania, right? Like, people are still going to watch?
Yeah, they're still going to watch for the most part. I mean, I don't think it'll be quite as big as other years just because the time slot isn't going to be as good. And there's not going to be the amount of publicity in the United States that there was and everything. But I think it'll still be, you know, relatively close to what it had been in other years. Yeah.
There's word going out that they want to get major stars to come out of retirement again. Shawn Michaels has since come out and said there's no chance he's ever doing another match.
Undertaker, he's getting double knee replacement this week. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't think that'd been a good idea for him to do it. Plus, I mean, if you remember the last time Shawn wrestled, it wasn't pretty.
No.
And I think that he regrets probably that he did it.
Undertaker, same situation. He's done. Who do you see in that realm? I mean, like, do they go after like a Dave Bautista? But he's not in wrestling. Like,
I don't
look like himself anymore. You know,
I don't think Dave Bautista will come back. You know, I mean, obviously, The Rock and Steve Austin are the ones. I'm sure they'll make an offer for Cena, you know, because it'll be long enough. You know, I'm sure Cena will have his last match in December. And then this is, you know, a year and a half later. I mean, for one match, I'm sure they'll make a try for John Cena. I don't know that he'll do it. I don't know that he won't.
That was going to be a totally separate question for me, but since we went there, yeah, John Cena obviously is that question mark. I don't know. I don't see Cena being a guy that would go back on his word, but we said the same about Shawn when that happened, right?
I mean, even Mick Foley, who I thought would never go back on his word, went back on his word like 8 weeks later. So what wrestler retired that didn't come back? I mean, even Shawn, who said he would absolutely never come back, did. I just don't think that's going to be his last match. I mean, it could be. I mean, they're making a big deal out of it, but it's like too many guys come out of retirement. I mean, except for Jack Briscoe, I'm still trying to wonder who didn't.
Do they offer Goldberg yet another final match?
Maybe. Yeah.
So that's one guy I can see them going for just based on their perception of North American wrestling. But
and here's the other thing: for the amount of money that they will offer, it'd be really hard for Bill to turn that one down because they were paying him $2 million already. Right. So now his price would be up for a WrestleMania. So, I mean, you know, if you're being offered $3 million to come out of retirement, you probably will. I'm
trying to think of guys that are still around, still active, and still might be able to do it. Like maybe a Mark Henry, if Mark wants to.
I don't think he's big enough for that. I don't think that matters. And I don't think it's a good idea for Mark either.
No.
You know?
I mean, I've always loved Mark, but I could see that. I mean, Scott Steiner's done. You know, I'm going through the alumni pages right now, just quickly to try and pick names here, you know, like X-Pac, sure. You know, he's done one-offs here and there, but again, who's going to be that?
But he's not a big enough name that it matters, yeah.
Yeah, and who's that big enough name? That's the question, right? Like
Steve Austin, Bill Goldberg, The Rock, you know, John Cena, Dave Bautista. Those are the big enough names.
That's got to be about it, really.
You know, I mean, I think Ric Flair, it's way too fat. You know, I think that's completely out of the realm of possibility. I sure hope it is. Mick Foley, Mick Foley, I think would be a bad idea, real bad idea.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm just going through the only other name I'm thinking of that's current and still kind of working and still could come in guys like a Braun Strowman, maybe.
Yeah, but so what?
But again, is that a big enough name? I
no
question it, and that's no offense to Braun. It's just we're talking. The guys in the alternate commentary, they did star or mega stars. They went through some names yesterday, and star, absolutely, mega star, probably not. Well, that's something to think about when it comes to obviously what's going to be over a year and change from now. Let's talk about the now with Dave Meltzer from Wrestling Observer. A story going on about Andrade, no longer on the WWE main roster here. Apparently he's been let go. I've heard stories from you about possibly a disciplinary thing. What do we know?
Yeah, it's a disciplinary thing. He failed a drug test, apparently. I don't know that that's the reason. There was buyer's remorse when he came back anyway, for whatever reason. But there were people who said that him and Rey Fenix were going to end up with the tag team titles. There may be more to it than that. There was a show about a month ago that it was a SmackDown taping that they sent him home. And, nobody talked about it or anything, but when he was fired, somebody said like, oh, for the last month, we've kind of been waiting for the day to hear this because he was sent home. That's probably it.
All right. Well, again, it's, never great when you hear that happen to somebody, but not to go with buyer's remorse, but it did seem to be kind of a big return at the Rumble and just fell flat afterwards. So I don't know if the personal life situation had anything to do with that. I don't want to speculate on that either because that's not.
I was actually told no on that one. That there was okay. Yeah, I was told it had nothing to do with the marriage splitting up at all. I was told when he showed up at the show where they took him away that he was fine, coherent, it wasn't like he showed up drunk or anything like that. That's what I was told, as far as like what it was. The most credible story that I've seen, I don't know if it's the drug test failure is the reason or they were two separate things. That I couldn't tell you.
I mean, you never hear about the drug test stuff anymore. So
yeah, isn't that interesting too that the first time we hear about it and it's impossible when you have the number of guys that they have, some of the guys looking the way they do, that nobody fails. You know what I mean? Look, you and I can both see that a guy who gains 50 pounds over his weight when he was 30 and he's now 45, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily natural. And it's not like it's one person, it's like the supernatural physiques are not real. There's a lot of guys in their 40s that look really, really good there in a way that guys in their 40s certainly didn't look even in the 80s when everybody was on stuff. So, that kind of tells you how strict is this. And look at who's in charge, of creative. I mean, it's just like, they're not anti-drug people. I mean, Vince McMahon wasn't an anti-drug person. He did it kicking and screaming because he had to. It also could be one of those things where somebody fails a drug test. It's just kind of ignored. Like maybe they all are. And then since he's gone, hey, we'll let people know that way. Oh my God, they're really testing. We didn't know that, because no one ever gets caught. But I don't know. I don't know the situation, but he's gone for sure. And the next question is obviously, will AEW take him back? And it's a debatable subject. I mean, for me, the answer would be no.
Well, he tried to get fired from there. So
this is sort of my rule now with AEW of 5 years of watching this. If somebody gets fired from WWE and goes to AEW, they usually don't work out well. I'm sure there'll be exceptions. If somebody on their own volition, their contract ends and then goes to AEW, they choose AEW over WWE. In most cases, that works out a lot better. I mean, if you just look at the guys who were problems there, and there's exceptions to that one too, obviously, but the percentage is much better of the guys who leave on their own volition. I mean, you never hear of any problems from Ricochet. You never hear any problems from Bryan Danielson, right? I mean, the other guys that got fired that Tony gave a job to, out of sympathy, like there was all kinds of problems with so many of them, as far as doing jobs and things like that. So it's like, that's kind of a bad deal.
We're talking to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. Coming up next, one of the busiest weekends of the year, again, comes up this weekend, September 20th, as AEW and WWE both have major shows happening. We're going to talk about those next.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
The alternate commentary table, ACT, brought to you by the Celebrate Wrestling podcast feed. Listen, it's Mitch, it's Dimitri. We got this little pod thing that we do every single week where we talk about the week in wrestling and the way in which we do it from the other side of the railing. Right, Mitch?
I like that.
We're coming at it because we love it. We hate it. The alternate commentary table. Download it anywhere where you're getting your podcasts.
Sure. Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
We're back with Dave Meltzer. Dave, coming up this Saturday, it's a day where wrestling fans are basically going to be glued to their TV if they're a fan of both companies, because what other choice do you have? You got AEW's All Out happening at 3 Eastern in the afternoon. Then after that, it is WWE's WrestlePalooza. 2 big events, 2 big cards. It's no longer a, quote, head-to-head, but at the same time, there could be some overrun if AEW runs long. I see AEW running long?
I see AEW running long. I see for sure. I mean, I look at this lineup, with all these gimmick matches, and it's like, and all these multiple-person matches, and it's like, I see AEW running long. If I was AEW, I would run long. It worked the last time they did it. So, they had a strategy that they did on July the 12th when they were forced into the situation, and they're doing the same thing. And the strategy on July 12th worked. That doesn't necessarily mean it'll work this time, because this time WWE is a much stronger card, and this time AEW doesn't have as strong of a card, so it may not work as well. But it's probably out of all the strategies to do, it's the smart one. Probably was certainly to move in the afternoon, and that's a for sure. And to go long.
The WWE starting at 7 Eastern. I don't remember an AEW pay-per-view that went under 4 hours.
The most of them were 3 hours and 45 minutes. But lately, the one on July 12th, they went 2 hours long because they wanted to prove a point. And this one, I'm going to guess they'll go 1 hour long. Just my gut. In the UK one, I think they went 30 minutes long because they had to. I mean, they didn't have to go 30 minutes long, but they couldn't go longer than that because there was a curfew in the building. So they went 30 minutes long. But yeah, I think this one's going to go an hour long. So I would say 5 hour pay-per-view and 1 hour pre-show, 6 hour show, very long. And WWE, I would expect a good 4 hours, out of that one. And also the other thing that's important is that in the United States, it's the first WWE show on the ESPN app, and it's the first AEW show on HBO Max. So it's important for your business partners to get those relationships going successfully. I think there's pressure on both of them to put on marketable shows.
As far as WWE's card here, I mean, you've got the Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, AJ Lee, CM Punk match. First of all, I mean, the AJ Lee return, pretty well executed, I think, overall. Yes. I mean, they did a case.
I think they couldn't have done better. I think that they it's funny because there's so much negativity that I read. Of course, you always read negative about everything, but on the WWE creative, Paul Levesque, this and that, and it's like this scenario. I mean, I'm not saying every scenario they do is a hit, and they've had their misses, of course, but this Punk and AJ Lee versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch thing has just been a home run. I mean, obviously we haven't seen the match. We haven't seen AJ Lee in the ring. So I'm just saying from a promotional standpoint, between the AJ Lee return and the work of Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch and Punk, and AJ Lee, as far as to build it up. I mean, it was a great setup to the story. It was a great, the way they brought AJ Lee back was great. The back and forth with AJ Lee and Becky Lynch has been tremendous. I mean, it's really been, like last year when Punk and Drew had that great, feud. I think this one is like that and maybe even more.
We do have Cody added to the card going against Drew McIntyre. Of course, the other giant match on this, John Cena, Brock Lesnar. Brock literally splitting his pants on Friday. That was kind of comical for everybody. But at the same time, this doesn't feel like the monster heel Brock against the monster babyface John Cena. This almost feels like a tip of the hat to their feud over the years here. Is that just me or am I way off base here?
What surprises me is they had Lesnar on the show Friday night, because I think that, I would have put Lesnar appearances on the same show with Cena. Rather than on different shows. I think maybe there's the thought of if they're on different shows, they don't touch, and it's better for the match for them not to touch. I get that. But I think it's better for the match if they both have verbal altercations back and forth, and they're not going to have it.
Well, it was nice of his younger brother, Ron Cena, to show up and take the hit. But in all seriousness, I mean, I don't know. I see this being a match that both guys are going to go in, and Cena seems to be enjoying himself with these farewell matches now as the last few are ticking by. So I think it could be maybe another blockbuster for Cena here. We'll see what happens there. Usos versus Breakker and Reed. We got Io Sky versus Stephanie Vicaire for the women's championship that's vacant right now. Overall, I mean, they've built a pretty decent card here for this. Is this enough, you think, to garner attention away from anybody watching All Out to come over early and log on to the app that way?
I don't think, I mean, there'll be some, but I don't think it'll be a big number that log out and come over early. And I don't think it really matters because the key to All Out success is the number of people who buy. And if they buy and then they watch the, they log out at late. And I mean, the reality is that AEW shows in the last hour or the match in the last hour, it's going to be Paige and Fletcher. That's going to be the last match, and they'll probably do, whether it's the ladder match or whatever that is, there's a lot of different ones it could be. But, AEW, the matches that go on head to head are going to be big matches. But if they log out and then they watch the rest of that later, it doesn't hurt AEW at all. The key is and what we saw the last time is a lot of people, I think, when it came to the July 12th was, they watched that AEW show for 6 hours, and it was like, that's it. I mean, I know everyone who watched it with me, it was like, I ended up, of course, I'm going to go watch the other one, and they were all like, it's time to go home. You know what I mean? This is long enough, and it was long enough that they had no interest in the wrestling. Now, I think this time some people will stay, just because because a couple of people have told me that, but, it's going to be a long day, that's for sure.
Well, you've got other matches here, including Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter, Chris Statlander, and Thekla. 4-way for the women's championship there. I mean, Toni Storm is still doing what she does and kind of rules the roost with her segments. What'll be really interesting is Cope and Christian versus FTR, obviously at home in Toronto for Cope and Christian. And a lot of multi-man, multi-woman matches here again. You got the 8-woman tornado tailgate brawl. Mm-hmm. You got Moxley versus Darby Allin in a coffin match. And the feud that I think is probably the most intriguing one for me still is MJF and Mark Briscoe. I'm really, really liking this. I think both guys are doing really great on this. So, I mean, definitely tons of shenanigans can happen in all this. One match I wanted to ask you about, though, and how you think it's going to go is Eddie Kingston versus Big Bill. We haven't seen Eddie in action in a long time, obviously recovering from brutal injury. And he went through a lot with this one, but he's back now.
That's a tough one to come back from. Will he be 100%? Probably not. Will he be good enough? We'll see. I mean, the key to Eddie Kingston, obviously is he needs to cut a hell of a promo this week. That's all I'll say, because his strength is in his promos.
Is it a quick one, you think, or does it go long?
What, the match or the promo?
Yeah, the match. Well, the promo is going to go long. It's going to be.
I expect the match to go decent length. I think every AEW match on that card is going to go decent length.
Okay. All right. Well, last thing for you, Dave, this week before we go into all the other stuff that's happening here. I mean, obviously, there's a ton of things we can touch on, but Chris Jericho came out in an interview last week saying that he's with AEW, and the words "for now" were used. Is there any movement on that situation that we know of all with Jericho? Is there, how strong have you heard the interest is from WWE? How strong have you heard the interest is from AEW and maybe even from Jericho himself?
I think that Jericho's going to keep everything pretty quiet, and he'll listen to the offers. And I don't think he's married to either side. That's my thought. But, and I think that it's probably really fortunate for him and probably not a coincidence that this all came out. Although, I actually started writing about it because I knew just from common sense. I mean, it wasn't like, he pushed me and like, whatever. I mean, that didn't happen. I don't think it happened, but I think he is the beneficiary of all this, in the sense that it's public and, he's a big star, and I'm sure they both want him. It's a tricky one, because, there's certainly big pluses for him with WWE, but it's still Levesque. And not that that's a bad thing necessarily. I don't, but they have a certain style. And like with AEW, the one thing he can do is he can kind of dictate like the kind of match he wants to have. And in WWE, not as much. I mean, it's way more freedom in AEW, way more freedom to do touring, do projects. So there's advantages of AEW. The age has to be considered. It could be if he's got this mentality of a retirement run, and I don't think the Hall of Fame is going to make a difference to him. He'll accept it if he's there, I'm sure, but it's not like he's going to make a decision based on it. But as far as if he's going to go out, probably better in WWE. But AEW did an awfully good job with Sting, so I just think he'll have more freedom. But with WWE, there's less of a chance of a fan backlash because that's what he was dealing with. I think if there's no fan backlash, he just stays in AEW because the fan backlash and knowing if you go to WWE, you're not going to have that. That's a big, especially if you're going on. I'm going to go out there and do one last year or two last years, and there's an advantage of WWE in that situation when you're at that point in your career. So and the other thing is that it's money, and I don't think Tony Khan wants to lose him, and I think WWE would absolutely love to take another AEW star. So he's in a great position.
That's just it. Well, I guess we'll wait and see what happens at the end of the year here. But Dave Meltzer, thank you as always. Sir, before we let you go, what are some things you've been working on for the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and what are some things people can read in the last issue?
Yeah, last issue. So the last issue, we talked about all of the different big shows, previewed September 20th. A lot of stuff on September 20th, obviously. We went through the whole background of how the Saudi Arabia deal went through and ideas of what Saudi Arabia wants as far as matches and, some of the stuff we talked about here, of course. And, there's, we've been doing stuff with different Hall of Fame candidates. We had stories on Steve Gray. We had a story on Gilbert Leduc, who was a big star in France. We'll have that, and then just all of the regular business news and coverage of all the shows. There's a lot of big shows all over the world right now.
And Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame voting has begun as well, so we'll keep tabs on that as things go forward. Dave, always appreciate you. Thank you very much, sir, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, have a great week.
Coming up next, Brian Kendrick and I sit down for a one-on-one.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
Legends and Champions is your weekly fix to go old school, looking at the classic world of professional wrestling. From Hulk Hogan to the Hitman Bret Hart to the Icon Sting to the total package Lex Luger. We have it all each and every week on Legends and Champions, part of the Celebrate Wrestling Network. And it's available on a Wednesday with me, Andy Evans. See you there.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Welcome back to the show. I thought long and hard about this interview and this guest. I had some mixed feelings, as a lot of wrestling fans have had over the years, but I made it a personal policy a long time ago to judge people for who they are now, in the moment, because I myself, in my advanced age, I'm not that old, but I just sometimes feel like it, especially when I bend to pick things up. But like a lot of people, I can look back in my life and go, God, I've done some dumb stuff. And the difference between knowing when you've done the dumb stuff and owning it versus sometimes being oblivious to it and denying it, I think is where the line gets crossed for me. Now, I'm not saying that everybody gets off just with an apology. Okay, sometimes you're right to feel the way you feel, and if you don't want to listen to this part of the interview, that's fine as well. I'm not going to hold it against you. For those that don't know the whole situation, Brian Kendrick, years ago, liked to partake in online videos and interviews and things. He liked to really hop on the conspiracy theory wagon. He got into all sorts of issues, all sorts of scenarios, and spread all sorts of, in many cases, what could be considered unforgivable comments. But the question is, where do you forgive and where do you let go? And we had similar conversations like this with much bigger names, i.e. the Hulk Hogan situation. The difference between a Hulk Hogan situation and a Brian Kendrick situation, other than obviously the levels of stardom which each guy hit, is that there's documented apologies of Brian Kendrick acknowledging what he did and owning up to it. In fact, this is one that came out a couple years ago that I wanted to share with you now. And this was after comments came out. If you might remember, he was actually signed on to appear on AEW. he was going to have a match against Jon Moxley. And then he was pulled based on comments he'd said in the past. So you can call it the apology tour. You can call it trying to save face and get work. And I don't know. I don't know the guy well enough, but I did want to talk to him about pro wrestling, which we did. But I think it's important to acknowledge what he's done and what he's done since then. So this is an appearance that he made in 2022 on a show called the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast. This made it all the way up to TMZ. This became, in a lot of ways, big news in the wrestling world as well. So again, I'm not here to be your moral compass. We talk about wrestling here. That's all we're going to talk about in the interview. But I did want to address this because it's important. This is what Brian Kendrick had to say about his past comments.
Duke's give me an opportunity to apologize. Few months ago, article came out highlighting some videos, one from 9 years ago, one from 11 years ago, with me saying some pretty horrific stuff. Back then, I was trying to create some sort of buzz, and I didn't care who I offended. You know, when it gets thrown back in your face, you know, one, it's embarrassing, but two, you know, you start to reflect when you're forced to reflect on it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being so cold-hearted and trying to profit off of tragedy, I suppose is what it was. I was trying to gain off of others' tragedies by making conspiracy to create a buzz for myself to try to gain some sort of bookings. It was a terrible idea. And even if it hadn't affected anybody, it's still just horribly embarrassing. A friend of mine recommended Survivor Mitzvah. I recommend that too. It seems to be a pretty honest charity where the money goes directly to. And just my actions as far as hoping to be kinder. If it's a question of like understanding the tragedies of the past, the truth is, Duke, I understood all that long ago, prior to these statements. You know, years ago, as part of the WWE, Beth Phoenix and I went to Dachau. You know, as a teenager, I went to the Holocaust Museum with my grandfather. I've been to one in Jerusalem and in Amsterdam. I know these things. It hasn't dawned on me that these tragedies might have actually had happened. This is stuff I knew. What I was doing was trying to profit off of that. Like I said, trying to become a villain who would make light of such tragedy. And that's it. It's a disgusting thing to do. And I did it.
If you're just tuning in, that was Brian Kendrick from 2022 after those videos had surfaced of him, what he says, portraying to be a character. So again, if you want to ignore this part of the show and say, you know what, I'm sorry, the guy's just not for me, that's okay. I completely understand. I hope you'll still give our show a chance to tell wrestlers' stories. The guy I met, though, was not what I was expecting, to be 100% honest. And I mean that in a nice way, because like everybody else, I'd heard the stories. I've met a lot of wrestlers who have said and done I've met a lot of people, okay, who've said and done a lot of rotten things. We've all had our moments in our life, and if you haven't, you're lying. But this guy was one of my favorite performers to watch back in the day. And to be honest, after seeing him on tour and what he was doing recently, he was still one of my favorite performers to watch. So normally I would never go this deep into explaining a reason for an interview, but I'm also a firm believer in giving chances to people who I feel have earned them and who realize what they have done in the past may not be all that great, but have also accepted the responsibility of that. And I think Brian Kendrick is that guy. So we talk a lot about pro wrestling, and we do talk about some life lessons. Here's my conversation with the Brian Kendrick.
I'm a man with a plan.
So I pull up to the building today, and enjoying some sun is a guy that I'm like, you never know how you're going to meet somebody when you're meeting him for the first time. Stretched out, enjoying, maybe getting some personal time in. Brian Kendrick, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. It was one of those things where, again, I never want to take away from your personal time, but happen to mention the show, and you said you were all for it. So
yeah. Happy to do it. Absolutely.
This is kind of neat because it's sight unseen on both parts here as far as talking to each other, but obviously, I mean, I've got a whole frame of reference to go off of your work and everything else. But I want to get your perspective, first of all, on being back in Canada and doing this tour we've talked about numerous times on this show, how Danny runs still what is really one of the few circuit tours that goes across any country, let alone across Canada with the distance it is. But how is it to be out here on the road with Danny and the CWE crew?
Oh, it's been great. So 17 days in a row of travel is one thing, but it's also wrestling, setting up, tearing down the ring. And I've never wrestled 17 days in a row. I've been on long tours, but 17 days in a row without a match off, that's a first for me, and I've been doing this for 26 years. So I was excited about the challenge, and I was also excited about getting to see Central Canada, to see outside of the major cities and to see real Canada, and I'm getting to, and it's been great.
Well, I think you're in for something special tonight. I have no idea what our numbers are like for a show, but Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, where I'm out of, Southern Alberta especially, we tend to have some of the more rabid fans I've found here, and I say that being in like the Edmontons, Calgary's, major centers in Canada, and even going to secondary shows in the US, you know, like I've been to big WWE house shows, for example, in Vegas and a few other places, and seen shows, how the fans react there. You get some of the hottest, most passionate fans here, and part of it is because guys like you take the time to come out and see them. You're not going to just major centers. You're getting to see all sorts of small communities and different places so far. How many shows in are you now for this tour?
This will be show number 8.
Okay.
Yeah, out of 17. So tomorrow will be the tipping point. When we set up the ring tomorrow, will be the quasi-halfway. Or intermission tomorrow will be the halfway point, I suppose. It might be a better way of looking at it.
So what are some of the things that you're seeing that maybe seem different to you from the days of touring around with the major buildings and stuff like that?
Well, it's kind of the same everywhere, you know. It's different than let's say the televised programs in the WWE or TNA, where those guys don't set up the ring, and with this, it's much more like the circus, like traditional wrestling, where it's all hands on deck. We all travel together in separate cars, but we're all making the towns together and celebrating our successes, and it's really nice.
I mean, you have obviously a strong independent background before you had the big success on TV and everything else. So in a way, it must feel kind of full circle to be doing stuff like this. At the same time, when you see maybe these newer guys, these younger guys that are coming in, do you see moments from your past in them and be like, I remember that feeling doing a show like this, and maybe having the same feelings that these younger guys have?
I mean, I have the feeling currently because I'm, doing it. But yeah, I understand what it's like. I always get nervous because I pour my heart into my wrestling. I care about it deeply, and so I want it to be excellent. That's where I'm nervous. They have a whole different type of nerve. They're scared for different reasons, and so I sympathize with that. It does remind me of when I was 25 years younger.
I gotta say, man, and again, I'm not trying to butter your bread or make it weird here, but I pull up and saw you just enjoying the sun here. You get up, I'm like, dude, are you in better shape now than maybe you have been in your entire career? Because you're looking fantastic.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I might be. I'm striving to be. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Mike. Thank you.
And again, I'm not trying to be a weird fanboy. It's like, ooh, look at how good you look. But I mean,
thanks, Mike. It's well, it helps when I'm with a bunch of young, hungry wrestlers every day, and they all want to go to the gym, and I'm not going to let them show me up. So I kind of strive when there's not necessarily competition, but competitive in the sense that I'm not going to let, if they're doing it, I can do it too. So it's nice being around them. They've helped me get in better shape.
These whippersnappers.
Yes, these whippersnappers. Karn found them, yeah.
For those that don't know as well, because like I told you before we started, I mean, we're on the radio. We also do the podcast thing. So we get fans of different levels, right? We have the fans that are very much knowing every detail, and we could go through your entire career if you wanted to. But we also talk to the people that are listening at 20,000 feet. Maybe all they know is what's on TV and that sort of thing. So for those that remember you from the WWE days specifically, because that was arguably your biggest exposure run, I mean, Cruiserweight Championship, Tag Team Championship, you were a guy who was known, you and especially when you were teamed with Paul London, you were known for being that high-flying, exciting act. You were kind of the minutia on the card that was... you were there to provide the excitement. We'd get some big brooding guys out there doing their thing. We'd get the monsters. We'd get everybody else. And then you guys would come out and do a style then that is probably more popular now than it ever was then. You are a guy, though, that people have turned to. Over the years, we would hear the story of some big names that would credit you for, and not just experienced wrestlers, but maybe some of the names that we were surprised to see come into the world of pro wrestling. And maybe you could take us through, I don't want you to list your whole resume here, but for those that don't know, could you tell us about some of the people that you've helped go on to some major success?
Well, I guess one who would be as far as like a wrestler goes, would be Saxon Huxley. He's out there in Noah right now. He just got done wrestling Necro Butcher, former GHC tag champ. He's an amazing wrestler. But as far as like the names that people know, I was fortunate enough to train Ronda Rousey for professional wrestling. Nothing else, of course. and I lucked into getting to help train Bad Bunny as well. Now, there was a lot of people involved with all of them. I know Fit had a big hand in Ronda, and Drew Gulak and Adam Pearce. They started off with Bad Bunny, so there's a lot of people involved. But I was fortunate to get to work with those names. Yeah.
Well, those were the two I kind of wanted to. Try to gingerly dance around here, but
I thought so.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm not trying to read your resume back to you either here, but it has to be validating that after all your years of being in this and still doing it and being as passionate as you are about it, clearly, I mean, you're out here in Medicine Hat visiting us tonight, like you said, on a 17-show tour here for the first time. To be trusted by the officials with these already multi-million-dollar talents in other worlds to say, you know what, Brian can help you.
It is. It's nice, and it's nice that they. I think they both enjoyed their training. I think that we, Ronda and I and Bad Bunny and myself, we melded well together. I think. I don't know. I guess I might have a knack for it.
Well, I've heard your name dropped by quite a few people over the years, saying that you've helped them either get the basics down or better yet, go beyond the basics and really get some shine on there. Ronda Rousey actually did bring your name up before. I've never talked to her, but I mean, I've seen the interviews and heard them where she's talked about working with you especially, and her love of pro wrestling actually stemmed from watching indie shows and then obviously, WWE gets a hold of her and they do what they do, but
they didn't. She got a hold of me through Roderick Strong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Morena and her go way back, best friends and the like, and she wanted to do some pro wrestling. And so Roderick Strong recommended me because I was training people out in L.A. This was before the WWE. Any contact that her and the WWE had, I didn't know about for weeks, if not months, maybe up to 3 months. That she was just training because she wanted to. Nobody from the office. She just wanted to try.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
she's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. I don't know. I had nothing but good things to say about her. Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah. I knew that she had started training and became a fan because of indie level stuff.
That much is true. Yeah,
but I didn't realize that she was already training before any WWE stuff happened. That's wild.
Yep.
did she have any plan, or was it just because she wanted to learn how to do it?
Oh, I think her goal was to, go to the WWE. I mean, I maybe to do some indie wrestling, but I think she wanted to try it. It seemed like another, hurdle, another thing for her to accomplish, and she did. She found great success. Her debut tag match at WrestleMania was fantastic. She was a world champ. She did it without any guarantees. She just believed in herself, and she did it. Yeah, she did it.
Okay, so the temptation for someone in my position right now is to sit here and make this all about Ronda Rousey and Bad Bunny, and I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
I'm not going to do that because I'd like to hear it from your perspective a little more, though. You get a call saying Ronda Rousey wants to learn how to wrestle.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Like, you're the guy. Like,
super cool. Like, yeah, heck yeah. I want to train Ronda Rousey.
Any intimidation though? Any fear that if this doesn't go well? And I'm not implying that you have like a general insecurity or anything, but I mean, let's face it. If Howard Stern walked up to me one day and said, "Yeah, why don't you tell me what you know about radio?" It's like
Yeah, but if Howard Stern walked up to you and said, "I want to know what you can tell me about wrestling," what you're saying is like me going up to Ronda Rousey, and ask her about judo, because I know a little judo. I don't really, but she was asking me about something she didn't understand. But what she is, though, is a mega star who could, I don't know, but I didn't think anything would go wrong. I just, okay, let's see how this goes. And wow, she's just super nice right away, super approachable, and it was a pleasure.
So she came in asking questions rather than, this is how you do this, right? Like,
oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, totally humble. No, not even a, are you sure that, no. She trusted that I knew about pro wrestling, and I didn't, want to do anything with her or anybody where they could get hurt. But I mean, yeah, I really don't want Ronda to get hurt because I'm practicing tornado DDTs on the first day or something stupid like that. Yeah.
All right, this is called a senton bomb, and this is how you do it.
Yeah. Just tuck your chin, yeah.
When you get someone like that, and again, I want to keep this more about your side of the experience than talking about the other people as much, though. I guess the better question, rather than even talking about the celebrities, is that when did you discover that you have the ability to teach and have that certain level of, I don't want to say patience, but that certain level of understanding where somebody new is coming in, they're trusting their body, their sense of direction to you to show them how it's done. When did you realize that, I might actually be able to help people?
So that side of it, I'm still working on, as far as being a coach in a way to coax the best out of people. I was a trainer, I was a coach, golly, by the time I was 23 maybe, out in California, because I already been through the WWF system at the time, and I know technique. I know how to do things. I studied it, and here's how you can do things precisely. That I know. But when I was young and all the way into my 30s, I had no patience for those who weren't paying attention or who struggled with it. I was a terrible coach. I was just an expert on technique for years.
Okay. So when did that switch flip for you, though?
I think just as you get older and you get less angry with things in life, somebody cutting you off in traffic, if you get to the point in life where that doesn't bother you so bad, whatever, I'm just sing along to the music. As I got less angry with life without demanding life catered to me and appreciating it for what it is and doing the best I can with it. I think age.
That's funny you say that. Just on the show I was telling you, we just had Kevin Kasar, Killer Cross, on. He talked about the similar thing in a chapter in his book, just talking about learning how to, accept things and temper your own emotions at times, because that leaves you more open to more possibilities. And it sounds like that's what kind of helped you become this trusted figure in training, and people go, okay, you know what? He can show people what to do. We can trust him with other people.
Well, and I think even still at that point, it wasn't so much of this guy has the right demeanor for it. It was still, I think at that point, Roddy knew I knew wrestling, and so that was that. With Bad Bunny, it wound up being I was in LA when he was out in LA, and we started to train, and then it clicked in the way that I was training. What it is my approach is different. With Ronda Rousey, this is a pro wrestling hip toss, but I don't want you to do that. You're an expert at this. With Bad Bunny, you're doing an act, not learn to be a pro wrestler. So we don't have time to perfect arm drags. Let's focus on what we need to focus on, and making sure everything's safe and all of that. So I had a good strategy, I think, on how to train them. Not necessarily my charming personality or anything like that.
And that's fair too. Yeah. That's fair too. Sometimes the work is the message, though, too, right? Like if you can give them what they need, they feel comfortable with you. Who cares how? It's just a case of you guys got a good relationship, a good rapport, right?
And if the end result, if the company's happy with the end result, and my main goal is this: I want Bad Bunny to go, boy, this was the most fun I ever had, and tell all of his celebrity friends, and then they all go wrestle there too. That was the goal. Yeah.
Well, I think it's working. I mean, we've had.
Well, I guess there's a lot of celebrities now.
There's a lot more coming in, but. We'll talk about Jelly Roll another time, perhaps. Did you see that match?
I haven't.
That's fine.
And I haven't seen.
Well, you've been busy.
Yeah, I suppose. I heard Paul is great. I haven't seen him either. I just don't. I don't watch the current wrestling, but I hear all these guys are doing really good. I hear they're doing really good.
If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Brian Kendrick, Mr. Brian Kendrick, the Brian Kendrick.
Hello.
When you were doing the Brian Kendrick thing, I thought, what a breakout spot for you. I loved the character. I loved the cockiness. I loved the walk. I loved the jackets.
those are my wife. Those are my wife, yeah.
But, the whole attitudinal shift to going from being a part of a very much defined tag team, these are our tag team guys, to becoming an actual character.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the role as Spanky before. Yeah. We'd seen you in the bit parts, and we can go back to things like being the singing telegram guy for The Undertaker and whatnot.
Sure.
But this was the first time we saw you on a major stage with a full blown out character. Was that something comfortable for you?
Oh, I mean, it's. I wish it would have lasted longer. I absolutely loved it. It's just. It's hard. Once you get higher up in the pecking order, especially back then, it's more than just your in-ring work, There's a lot of... you got to stay persistent. You got to, there's things I just didn't know how to do, maybe not comfortable doing. I don't know, but it just takes a different type of guy to be on top. It's hard work. Mm-hmm. It's hard work. But boy, I sure love that character, yeah.
I thought it was great. The jackets especially, and then the strut, did you have a say in the song at all or anything? The Man with the Plan?
I didn't hear it until I came out. I just asked, can I please have new music? And they said, what kind? I said, rap, rock, I don't care. Just a new song, please. And so I heard it. Dun, dun, dun. This is my music, I guess. And then I just... all right, I'll bebop around to it. I had no dance planned. I had nothing. It was just go with whatever stupid song I'd come out to. And I lucked out because the song was pretty good.
It worked so well.
Yeah, it was a good tune.
It's still one of my favorite iterations of character transforming over. It just that sounds very inside, but I don't mean it to. I just... so much that my Facebook URL, you know how you can give yourself your own tag? I had actually, right when this is happening, I changed it to the all caps Mike McGuire.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And I always had to explain to people, it's not that I think I'm that cool, it's because I like this guy named the Brian Kendrick. So that is 100% true story. So just so you know, I'm not totally...
Thank you.
Again, it feels like I'm just blowing smoke up your butt here, but I don't mean to do that either, dude. But, I mean, you're a guy who many people have seen, a lot of people. I mean, when you first came in, I had my friends that were watching all of the indie stuff back in the day, and they were telling me that's Spanky. Why don't they let him be Spanky? And so I went through a phase where I actually went back and I watched a lot of old stuff, and I watched old stuff of Spanky, and I watched old stuff of, I would always constantly go back once guys made it, because I was very much fed into what's on my TV is the reality of wrestling, and that's the way it is. And then you find out all the indie stuff and ROH and PWG and all these great things, right? So if there's something you could compare from those days to these days of independent wrestling, because independent wrestling, as we're seeing, is really thriving in many ways like it never has before on these small company levels now. Like where I'm at in Lethbridge, they have their own home-based promotion. Okay. It's called Pure Power Wrestling, okay? And a lot of the guys that are on these cards actually work those ones as well because they're in the area. But as much as Danny is like the last really strong touring indie promotion out there, this promotion, PPW, I've never seen anything like it, where it's all just their local guys. Okay. And in a market of about 100,000 people, they're drawing like 500 a show. And they're in the fair, and they're like, it's got a real groundswell, old school Stampede Wrestling vibe. And I don't know if you even watch any of those old tapes to know what I'm talking about, but if I compare it to anything, it's just like that, the home team wrestling company, you know what I mean? Okay. So when you're out and about and you're doing all these shows now, what can you compare today's indie scene against the indie scene when you were coming up to, and what would you say has been the greatest change and the biggest maybe positive, and maybe if there's even something you wish wouldn't change, but what would you say is the biggest difference maybe, or similarity or success? That's kind of like four questions in one. But
okay. Well, the biggest similarity is that the young guys are still trying to push themselves physically, sometimes past their limitations, that their eyes are bigger than their stomach as far as what kind of moves they could pull off, but meaning they're trying to push wrestling the furthest they can. I think that was the same as when I was young. They're trying to advance it and evolve it, which I think is a good thing. What do I think is a bad thing is that the asking vets for advice to watch their match and get their thoughts on it isn't a thing anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very rare, and whatever the reason might be, I was afraid to bother or whatever. I was afraid to bother these people that were much bigger than I am, but I asked them, and so what's, besides my ego being bruised, the sad part is that that style will just be lost. Any of that knowledge from these older wrestlers, they'll just have to pick it up from tape, but hopefully they'll understand the reasons why they did the things, but you'll never understand if you don't ask.
That's interesting. I would think if anything, you'd be a guy, especially, given the training that we've talked about, that man, if I was wrestling, you'd be the first guy to be like, hey, can you look at my stuff, So,
well, it's not just me. This was years ago. I was backstage with the Cruiserweights, so 2017, something like that. And I asked Daniel Bryan, who's, not only world champ and, top of the card, he's also a brilliant wrestler. If he wasn't on top of the card, you'd want his advice. But you'd want his advice for both reasons. He's made great wrestling a draw. And so I asked him, any of these young kids ever ask you to watch their matches? He says, no. And yeah. And that was, 8 years ago. And it hasn't gotten any better since.
I get the intimidation like I said, I didn't even want to bother you today, and then you were all for it. So, I mean, again, I appreciate you making the time for us. We've been going a lot longer than I planned to, so I appreciate that. No, it's all dude. I mean, I can sit and talk with you for hours if you want, but we got a show to get ready for everything else. So.
I got you.
But, I think that's probably where, you know what, being considered is one thing, but also you got to consider yourself. And if you have a chance to ask somebody that's done a thing or two, maybe what your advice is seize that opportunity.
Well, I mean, hey, you don't ask, you don't get. Maybe you don't ask because you don't want. We'll see. But I just, luckily, there's tapes of wrestling, so those who want to study still can.
You're not the first person I've heard say this, though, that they wouldn't mind if more young wrestlers asked for advice and took it. Do you think that's partly maybe, again, I don't want to speak badly about anything here, but do you think maybe some of that is, you know what, I've got some success, I know what I'm doing?
It could be. What they have is different than what I had. We didn't have social media or telephones. It's just phones were calls and texts. So there was no validation from on your phone to tell you you're good, or likes to make you feel better about yourself, or anything like that. And look, if you've got 35 people who hearted your backflip, what more validation do you need? So it could be that, but that's maybe a cynical way of looking at it. But it might be the truth.
Brian Kendrick, absolute pleasure to meet you.
Thanks,
man.
Mike.
I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and hopefully we can touch base down the road here. But you know what? In the meantime, if people want to follow you, if people want to get in touch, do you take a lot of bookings right now still, or is it?
I try to be on the road as much as I can.
Okay, so if people want to book you specifically, so booking inquiries only.
Yeah.
How can they get a hold of you?
It's just on Instagram, Mr. Brian Kendrick.
There you have it. Mr. Brian Kendrick, the Brian Kendrick. Brian, absolute pleasure.
Thanks
man.
a lot,
Thank
Mike.
you
I
so
appreciate
much.
it, buddy.
Really appreciate it.
My thanks to Brian Kendrick. My thanks to Dave Meltzer. Most importantly, as always, my thanks to you. We went a little long this week on the podcast version, but always appreciate you listening. Thank you for sharing the show and downloading, subscribing, all that fun stuff. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't yet. There are going to be some more video clips coming up in the future. Interviews with Raj Singh, Dan Lavransky up there now, and other clips like Karrion Kross, Killer Kross, who we had on the show a few weeks back, and more still to come. The show, McGuire on Wrestling, the pods celebrate wrestling. That's what we try and do here, and hopefully you are enjoying it. Until next time, my friends, as always, thank you so much for listening and letting me do what I do. Play safe, drive safe. Big seeing you up.
McGuire on Wrestling, online and on the radio. Listen to the show Mondays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time at CKXU.com, wherever you get your podcasts, and at McGuireShow.com.